Identical triplets separated at birth were secretly being watched their entire lives. Many people have come across someone who looks almost identical to them. But how many people can say they bumped into two doppelgangers of themselves and then learned that those two were their brothers? As single children, these three young men had no idea their siblings were just miles away. And as happy as they were following the discovery, their cheerful lives were soon turned upside down. The truth wouldn't have come to light if it wasn't for one big coincidence.
Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos.
In 1980, 19-year-old Bobby Shafran was taking his first steps onto his college campus. He hoped to make friends at SUNY Sullivan, but not as quickly as he was that day. Everyone smiled and waved at him like they knew him for some time. It was also strange that they kept calling him Eddie. Bobby soon learned that he was being mistaken for someone by the name of Eddie Galland, but not just because he looked similar. Supposedly, each was a dead ringer for the other, and so Bobby had to see for himself. One day, Bobby and Eddie decided to meet. To make the reveal more dramatic, they decided to wear identical clothing and, without others fully knowing who was who, one stood outside the other's dorm, waiting for the door to open. A door separated Bobby and Eddie. The two had never seen each other before, but they were told by their campus friends, "You have a twin." Whether their friends were being literal or not, the two 19-year-olds would find out with a swing of the door. It came as a shock for both of them. Rather than there being another person, it was like a mirror was standing in front of them. This would be the start of Bobby and Eddie's time in the spotlight. But they didn't see all the twists and turns that lay ahead. The rumors were true. Bobby and Eddie were identical. Since each knew he was adopted, they drew the conclusion that they were long-lost brothers. Their picture was shared in newspapers, and the story reached far enough to reach another 19-year-old, thanks to his adoptive mother. Miss Kelman saw her adoptive son David's likeness in the boys. She shared the astounding photograph of Bobby and Eddie with him. After making contact with them, David reunited with his brothers. The news of the triplets spread like wildfire, and Bobby, Eddie, and David found fame they could never imagine. Bobby, Eddie, and David took the world of pop culture by storm, appearing as a guest on talk shows like The Phil Donahue Show, and even making a cameo appearance alongside Madonna in the film Desperately Seeking Susan. The world was shocked with how similar they were, and not just in looks. The triplets grew up in drastically different environments, each living with a family from a different economic class: blue-collar, middle-class, and wealthy. Even so, there was so much the three of them had in common: their mannerisms, personalities, even down to what they liked, including their tastes in women. Still, something wasn't right. The trio enjoyed a great relationship as siblings. They even moved into an apartment together and opened the now famous Soho steakhouse, Triplets. That success came with a price, however. As their fame grew, trusting each other became more difficult, and there was still the question of why they were separated in the first place. It seemed like anyone approaching the triplets wanted to profit off their story. They were made promises by the media that were soon broken as soon as their story broke. On top of that, the brothers were struggling with mental health. The bond between Bobby, Eddie, and David began to suffer as time went on. They started to recognize their differences, but stuck together as best they could. Nothing could prepare them for the many curveballs that were to come. The trio's decline began in 1995. Around that time, the adoptive parents of the three were finding the truth behind Bobby, Eddie, and David's adoption. And one sibling in particular felt increasingly overwhelmed by his inner demons. Eddie took his own life that year. While the family, both related and adopted, grieved over their loss, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Lawrence Wright published an article that revealed the disturbing truth of why the triplets were separated and how it's happened to others. Lawrence Wright's article uncovered a disturbing psychological study. The researchers involved sought to learn more about the concept of nature versus nurture, which is a big debate when talking about children. The three brothers' future was sacrificed to find an answer. What's more powerful in shaping a human being? Is it our biology passed down from the previous generation, nature, or the environment and circumstances that we grow up in, nurture? Dr. Peter Neubauer of the Child Development Center would stop at nothing to find out. Dr. Neubauer and his associates hoped to see how different or similar the children would be if they were separated, and never knew of their siblings. Throughout the boys' childhood, a physician would often come to observe them. The adoptive parents were led to believe that the visits were merely to track the adoptive children's progress. After reading the article that Lawrence Wright had shared with the world, Bobby and David were beyond furious. They felt used. Even with happy families of their own, there was still a hole in their hearts from all the pain they endured. It was a bad time for a sudden movie deal. British filmmaker Tim Wardle was fascinated by the Triplets story and hoped to make a documentary with Bobby and David's support and blessing. The two brothers were suspicious of Wardle, as they learned to be with anyone approaching them. The filmmaker completely understood their hesitation and worked with them while they took their time in deciding. After 4 years of convincing them, Wardle finally brought Bobby and David on board to share their story. They didn't care at all for the money, they just wanted the chance to tell the world what really happened, uncensored and unabridged. While there were concerns about sensationalizing the story to make it sell, Bobby and David took a leap of faith and made the documentary. It became a booming success at the Sundance Film Festival, where Bobby and David began to find peace. After watching the film's premiere at Sundance, Bobby and David felt like they could start to move on. The audience's hushed reaction meant a lot to the brothers, and they even had many strangers walk up to them and offer them an apology and a hug. In the end, the two brothers found peace. They returned to their families, but would never allow them to be separated again. While they can't forget the difficult times, they can move forward and focus on love and family. There was no point in fixating on getting revenge. Please share this story with your friends and family.